So this is kind of tonight's going to be kind of a group discussion, so to speak. I've had to put off the last two therapy sessions, so I figure why not? Let's kind of combine it, and we can talk about how our jobs are treating us. But having said that, there's things we always have to go over, and the very first thing, especially since he sacrificed a small child to be here, we got to talk about our sponsor. The Serving Times, as if customer service wasn't ridiculous enough. The link's right there on the screen. The link is also in the description of the video. Please go check his stuff out. I know his writing room was on his ass today for being lazy. So the kiddies are going to make sure there's going to be hot new content coming soon. So go check his stuff out. Bookmark his page. Spread it far and wide. It is great stuff, and it sure as fuck is better than anything you'll read in fucking Insider. So I said it. Also, too, if you do like remotely anything that we do, please subscribe to the channel. We're at 362 subscribers at this point. Make sure, even if you're using another platform, if you later on can check out our link tree, which is right below my picture, go to the video and hit a like on it and whatnot, because it helps get, it's circulated. I will tell you that the last episode dropped like a brick. It's probably the lowest viewed episode we've had in a very long time. It's like sitting at 24 views or whatnot. And like I said, I don't really care, but the last one was like 197, the one before that. So I guess people didn't want to talk about lean payroll. I guess it was. What's up, Erica? Good to see you. Also too, there's a printable Retail Warzone business card. The link is in the description to the video. Erica, thank you, and Justice for Evan for that post that you did showing this. I appreciate it. Like I said, I really would like this year to be the year of outreach. It's real simple. Print it out, cut it to whatever shape you want to, put it wherever. I would like to see pictures of what you're doing with it. You can block out your face or whatnot. We will not put any personal details out there that will expose you. So that's, it just really be kind of cool to see where it's at, but thank you guys for doing that. And thank you guys for spreading the word. So, yes, Adria says, hit that like button on YouTube. And I always love when Erica pops up, she's throwing up the horns. That's great. It's a metal thing. Yeah. Or a rock and roll thing, if you want to call it that. But Irish, how are you?
All good. Still here. Still working.
Amen. So, having said that, let's get into some headlines for tonight before we get into the meat and potatoes. All right. So, retail sales dip 0.4% in February after buying burst in January. I mean, that was bound to happen. The inflation on everything is getting ridiculous, and it's just harder and harder to justify a lot of purchases out there. The next one, which is scary. Retail egg prices fell in February, but the price stop might not last very long. So, I don't understand that. If the egg prices went up and then they go back down, why are they going to go back up again? If that was the case, they shouldn't have came down. So I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to boost sales. And in another episode of The Customer is Always Right, and we're going to kiss their asses, retail CEOs want their loyal consumers back, reflecting on their Q4 earnings. So, God, all you guys be wary. That's a big red flag. We're getting ready to go back to The Customer is Always Right and kissing their ass and giving them whatever they want. This was a good one. Retail employees cite gender, racial, and age pay gap problems. That's something that's become more prevalent over the past 2 years, especially with some states passing legislation where you have to be transparent about your pay scales for different positions. Hero, we were at lunch today and she was telling me about an individual who saw her company had posted a job that was paying more than what she was making, and it was the exact same job. So, yeah, that stuff's important. Now, the next headline is something that is extremely frightening. Respiratory illnesses are up 96% in retail since 2021. I think we all know why that is, but as the Kermit meme says, that's none of my business. And this one I had posted on Twitter, and it got a lot of traction. Why are more retail workers quitting their jobs? They go through a lot of shit on it, and that's great. But like I said in my tweet, we're just sick of the bullshit. And then, Blame Tag likes to take credit for predicting the future, and he's done a really good job of it. But last stream, I talked about how Sarah Huckabee Sanders in Arkansas had rolled back the child labor protections, right? Well, this headline right here, Walmart has designed inclusive uniforms for workers ranging from a woman's cut vest to a hard of hearing or deaf vest. But the picture that accompanies the article is a person of quote unquote small stature, like child size. Do with that what you will. H&M retail workers do manual labor, need weekly pay. Suit says briefly there what that is because what they do is considered manual labor in the state that they are suing. They're required to get paid weekly, not bi-weekly. So they've sued to do that. Apple joins the cost-cutting club, but unlike other tech giants, is limiting hiring rather than resorting to layoffs. So they're not laying off anybody. That's great. But they're doubling the workload on their employees. Typical shit. Retail jobs fell by 14,000 in the Christmas quarter, BRC analysis suggests. That's kind of impressive, and that says a lot of people have just decided they're sick of it because, that's the roughest part of the year. And 14,000 people decided they weren't playing that game. Next headline, Nordstrom will cut about 2,500 jobs as it shutters its Canada business. Here are the other major retailers that have laid off workers in 2023. It's coming, guys. The retailers are going to start laying people off. The inflation's too high. People are spending less, especially in specialty shops and things like that. So people are going to lose their jobs. And then, Erica, glad you're here. Kroger's new payroll system resulted in workers receiving less pay than owed or no paycheck at all, according to 4 lawsuits filed against the grocery chain. And then, in another episode of They're Coming to Take Your Jobs, BJ's to roll out inventory robots chain wide. So there's our headlines for the evening, everyone. So let's take a look at the chat real quick. Once again, like Adria said, hit the like button. Mad Dog says, I'm trying to figure out a way to put them in people's stuff at our corporate meeting, like 600 plus people. That would be fucking awesome. Blame Take says, I need to find a printer. I was at the store the other day and wish I had one. What's crazy is really and truly, you can go to like Walmart and buy a printer cheaper than you can buy ink refills. It's almost gotten to the point that you just might as well buy a new printer before you buy ink cartridges. Take the old printer, throw it away, buy a new one, run it till it's done, throw it away, buy a new one, because the cartridges are fucking obscenely ridiculous. Let's see. Mel says, go to the library. Yeah, that's normally, if it's like a county library or whatnot, that's tax funded. That's your tax dollars at work. Go use that to print out retail Warzone cards. Alex says, what is it you said on the last one? An egg is still just an egg. Damn right, it is. Hybrid says they actually reported that eggs went up in price for greed. Only 6% of chickens died over the past year, but hens laid more eggs somehow. Okay. TM Lynn says, retail pay gaps. Don't those pay gaps exist everywhere? Yes, they do. Blame Tank says, I went on Reddit and Facebook and said chickens were going extinct and everyone called me an idiot. Well, if the bird flu keeps running through and we keep culling all of them, it's possible. I guess we're going to have to eat quail eggs or some shit. I don't know. I'm real sketchy about that. I'm sure they're fine. I'm sure they're tasty. I don't know, but I'm not going to commit to that. Hero says, so Walmart is rolling out a youth line of clothing for its employee inclusion program. That might be the post of the fucking day. So having said that, it is now time for the Irish Connections Fact of the Week. Sir?
All right. Well, rather appropriately, it was a nice segue. Tonight is from a country that no longer exists. In 1839, Prussia was the first country to pass laws restricting child labor in factories.
The more you know. So, yeah. All right. So there's not like any kind of topical stuff here. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go over the question of the week since it is vital to this conversation instead of doing it at the end. TM Lynn says silent childing. Ooh. Blame tag. Write that down because TM Lens has the next insider headline right there. Somebody needs to copyright that shit real fast. But anyway, so let's look at the question of the week. What's been your biggest challenge with your job so far in 2023? Hell yeah, Holly says, delegating tasks to team members who will do the bare minimum. Yep, I understand that perfectly. Jeff Benzos, Tiny Tony, says, I can't say or I would get sued into oblivion, but let's just say morale is real low, okay? And then I love this handle, this hoe right here. The expectation that we continue providing high-quality service and outcomes during rapid growth and expansion without additional infrastructure and resources. This isn't new in 2023, just more of the same, but with a cumulative effect over the past 2 to 3 years. And then Mad Dog, here's your contribution. Welcome to the Twitterverse. It took you long enough to get here. Lack of understanding and empathy from executives that have never worked in a store before. I have been doing the job of 3 managers since December. It sucks donkey balls. Yes. Adria says scheduling problems / doing the job of 2 people. Sam Henley, the fact that they're cutting hours, demanding more work efficiency, and want us to plan our vacation weeks at the beginning of the year. I mean, like, who planned? Look, I don't know about you guys. I don't think I've ever planned a vacation that far out in advance, and that's bullshit. And then our good friend Blame Tag. Management heaping on more tasks on top of our already heavy workload. Managers keep making decisions that complicate our jobs, and the messaging is, quote unquote, this is just how we do things now, which is honestly uncharacteristic of how our management's been in the past. It all comes from the GM pushing us to be number one in the country with no regard for the daily lives of the people who actually make something like that happen. Also, 3% raises all around last year when prices went up an average of 10% and continue going up. Pathetic. And then we have Cranky, hour cuts, and low morale because of it. Certain employees are calling out more. Also, new management's toxic positivity. Toxic positivity sucks. Mel, bless your heart. Good luck. I hope you find one. Hers is not having a job. And then TM Lynn's payroll and sales budgets that no one from the district manager down knows where they came from. That said, I have an amazing team and we are crushing it so far. Now I'm going to go over here to my other screen and I'm going to look because there were some responses that came in afterwards and I want to make sure that we get them in here. Let's see. Look at this. I believe it was Karen Harrison. Yes, Karen. Staying motivated at a job I like. That is sad. I like my coworkers. I like my boss, and yet I struggle to stay motivated. Maybe spring will help the blahs. And then Foolish Ban said, my employer's employee retainment policy is apparently all. You don't want to shake down your family and friends to make us more money? We'll just lean on the government to bring in more immigrants with no attachment to community to shake down your family and friends. Bye. So, yeah, so that's where we're sitting. Also, too, I had got an email, and I haven't responded yet to her from Ann. I don't remember her handle right offhand, talking about, the audience that we have. And, her, and she's right. I mean, it's older females that she's talking about. She listens to the podcast regularly. She enjoys it. She had a lot of good things to say. But I wanted to ask, kind of what age range people fall into. And at the time of this post, 18 to 25-year-olds made up 4.8%. And then 25 to 35 was 33.3%. 35 to 45, 47.6%. And then 46 plus was 14.3%. Now, I'm currently looking at the newest results, which 18 to 25 is 3.8%, 25 to 35 is 30.8%, 35 to 45 is 46.2%, and 46 plus is 19.2%. So I want to thank you guys for participating in that, because I think it's kind of key to kind of figure out who we're talking to on the average. I mean, everybody's included here. Nobody's being left behind or left out, but it kind of gives us an idea of the kind of people we're dealing with. And when you start looking at that 35 to 45 range, you're probably looking at old school, long-term retail employees. Would you agree, Irish?
Yeah, I think that's exactly, I would have kind of guessed almost that, like that's exactly what I would have expected. Like, this the people that listen to this type of thing are the ones that have just are at the end of the road, like just looking back on what the hell, they're that audience kind of makes sense. I mean, most of us are in retail a long time. That's why you would listen to something like this. We've seen it all. Like, we've been through a couple of recessions, we've been through ups and downs, and God, so it would be kind of difficult to have that sort of that resume at like 18 to 25. But some of them might be joining in early and kind of seeing the light before we did.
You bring up a good point. If you come into something like this and you go back and watch the catalog of everything we've done, because, I mean, God, guys, we're coming up on 3 years of doing this. There's a lot of content there, and there's a lot of input from a lot of well-spoken, well-intended people, talking about this industry. It could be a primer for younger folks to kind of be like, well, God, all these people, no, this is not the business for me. You start seeing things where, like, retail hiring is down. You never know what's causing that. But I think the general consensus out there is, and I really think it comes back to the whole essential thing. I think as quickly as that got turned and we were no longer essential and we were expendable, I think that sent a huge message to the younger workforce that if the younger generation is more technologically savvy, they're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, there's a reason why they call people influencers, which I hate that term and I think it's fucking stupid. That's not a career. Anyway, but they're hanging, their future on the words these people say. So yeah, it's very possible that social media is curtailing them for getting into the retail workforce. And you know what? If they're better for it, good for them, right? They don't want to turn out like some of us where we're, as someone in my past said, bitter, cynical, and jaded. It's a rough business. I mean, it really is. And Alex says, looking back at my time in food, retail, and customer service, what did I do with that 15 years of my life? Yeah, what you did is wasted. And, I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, retail can, when you get into management, it could give you a good paycheck. It's never going to be what you're worth, and it's never going to be worth what the workload you do is. But what happens is you do like me. Your wheels finally spin. You lose all the tread on your tires. You skid into the pit, and you're like, you know what? I don't want to race anymore. Don't worry about changing the tires. I'm out. And that's what's happening to a lot of people because it's just too much. I mean, I value my personal time. I value the fact these days that I don't get phone calls. I mean, don't get me wrong. I had text messages and stuff, but it's minor things. It's like a question, where's such and such? It's not like the world's falling apart. We need you to fix everything right now. And that's great. It really is. But, I think the younger generation is getting wise due to a lot of things. There's so much information available at your fingertips, and you'll see more, 18 to 25-year-olds with their face in a screen than you will a lot of older folks. They're just they're like a sponge for information. So maybe they're the ones who break the cycle. Maybe they're the ones who kill the industry. I don't know. But looking real quick, Mel says it's young, but in terms of working in retail, it isn't. I'm cough. I've already been in retail 20 years. Yeah. Look, I'm telling you, 10 years in retail feels like 50. Just saying. Alex says,
like dog years.
Yeah. Alex says, I was in management. The work did not equal pay. It never does. Hybrid says it never does as well. Correct. Hero says, the wall is crying because it's raining. Come back with a boat call. Yeah. TM Lynn says, I am lucky with where I am in management. Hopefully it stays that way. Hey, look, and that's the thing. There are unicorn situations out there. It does happen. It happened to me a couple of times. You know, when I worked for Jesus' Craft Store, my first store that I ran was a unicorn store. I had assembled basically like the retail fucking Avengers. Best staff to this day I have ever had. Everything became instinctual. Everything was clean. Everything was done the way it was supposed to be with very little interaction from me. It does happen. And when you do have it, it's amazing. It really is. But man, that's few and far between. So Irish, what do you have to say, sir?
Just going back to what you were saying there about the younger people, in a way, this is kind of like, discovering a second youth. It's just like, there's something kind of, you get a sense of relief when you actually find a community like this that kind of, agrees with you. I think some of the reason why it skews to the older generation here is because, we're the ones that kind of got stuck, when, like, we all kind of know, like, when you've been in it long enough, your resume reads, retail for 2 decades. It's very difficult to change industries. Like your resume just gets ignored. So, but it's kind of it's a great community, like for realizing, we're not just nuts. But now there are some. I'm enjoying kind of this week I was listening to the radio while I was in work, and there was some agony aunt on that she ran some store in Dublin. She's complaining about how she couldn't get anyone to work the sandwich counter. It's like, we have to pay these people more than minimum wage, and it's putting pressure on payroll. We have to increase prices. And I'm sitting there thinking, good, that's exactly what should be happening. Like, the youth are actually weighing up, like, unlike we did. I think we were programmed, our upbringing was like, you go get a job and you just suffer, basically. You just,
yes.
You're there to learn, and you're there to, yes sir, no sir. And you basically just get punished for the first few years of a job just to get something on a resume. And the youth today are just going, fuck that. I'm not like, engaging in slave labor just so I can say I cut up some lettuce on a sandwich counter, so there's a couple of news stories that are kind of presented in a way that sound troubling, to the business community. And I'm sitting back going, this is great. This is exactly what should be happening.
You're right. And to that point, I mean, I look at like my life now. Okay. Look, I'm not bragging or anything, but Hero finally convinced me to grow my hair. Right. I have this fucking bushy ass mane that when I'm at work, I wear it through a ponytail in the back of my hat. This hair has nothing to do with the job I can do, but if I walk into an interview to be a store manager with this shit, they're gonna be like, bye, see you. and that's the kind of thing that we deal with. You lose freedoms of yourself when you take these jobs. You have to look a certain way. You have to dress a certain way or whatnot. This hair has nothing to do with how I run a business, right? No, this hat. I mean, why cannot somebody have this hair and this hat and go work? It's fucking insane. Erica says, I'd hire you. Damn right. I'd hire you too. But looking at the chat real quick, let's see. Alex said, I will say that I have worked for folks, both young and old, that were made for retail. They loved it. They were good at it, and they made all of our lives so much easier. There are those people. I was one of those people until I wasn't. That's the thing. You've got managers that make life good for people, but you don't understand how much shit they're going through at that point in time. And eventually, boom, you hit the wall. Erica said earlier, I hardly ever see kids working in grocery retail anymore. Actually, I don't see many kids working in general. When I started at Kroger at 15 to 16 years old, it looked a lot different. It was a go-to job for high schoolers if you didn't want to work fast food. Now, I will say in my area, that's not the case, because where I work, it's a small town, and that is a first job for a lot of high school kids. It really is. So we have kids. And look, I'm not going to lie. I mean, there are lazy kids, but there's also lazy adults. So I don't get in this whole generational, nobody wants to work, these kids are lazy, because there's lazy at every age group. It just doesn't matter. But for a lot of boomers and whatnot, they won't depend on the younger folk. And there again, if the kids come in lazy, they were taught to be lazy. So it's not like they just picked that up, right? And so in my area where I'm at in the Southeast, Erica, you will see a lot of kids in the grocery business still to this day, especially locally. Blame Tag says, oh, I love you, Blame Tag. Long-haired, freaky people need not apply. It's a great song. Good song. TM Lynn says, I've got shaved head, beard, and tattoos. Hey, props to you for getting a job with tattoos. We've had that conversation. Alex says, I had a friend who worked for Disney. The protocols for what they could and could not wear and could not like was several pages long. Yeah. It's all about image. Hero says, unfortunately, I'm seeing a lot of older people in retail so they can have a second job at night. When you have folks working extra just to afford to live and constantly saying people don't want to work, you should be ashamed. She brings up a really good point. The United States has been bragging for months now about how many more jobs are being created. That's great. You know why? Because people are having to work 2 or 3 fucking jobs to fucking live. They're looking at paycheck numbers or looking at payroll numbers. They're not looking at this Social Security number is working 4 fucking jobs to live. There's like, hey, look, there's all these people working because you fucking have to. Go eggs cost about the price of a fucking Learjet at this point. It's so skewed. I mean, you can take any statistic and make it sound positive, but if you really break it down, I mean, how many people in these new jobs created are working multiple jobs because nobody's reined in inflation. Nobody has put the hammer down on these companies for increasing their prices, which is bullshit. At this point in the game, this shit's fucking price gouging, and you cannot convince me otherwise. Like I said, Alex, an egg's an egg. So, Hybrid says, I see nothing but kids in grocery. Cool. Blame Tag says, I've been lazy at every age group I've been part of. Hey, but at least you're consistent, my man. It takes a lot of energy to write the stellar things you write. So you were just actually preparing yourself. So you're good. You get a pass. Erica says, do not feed the long-haired freaky people. Okay. I'm going to starve. No, I'm not, because after the stream, I have steaks ready to cook. Alex says, here in Chicago, oh, wow, the chat just blew up. Where'd it go? I can't see now. Here in Chicago, I see a pretty equal mix of age groups at grocery stores and mostly kids in food service. Adria says, everyone in my department except one person is over 50. Well, yeah. I mean, God, think about what Social Security benefits and all this stuff when you get, it's all going to be gone for like me. I'm going to work till I die. Irish, you probably are too.
I'm nearly there.
Yep. So that's just how it is. And Erica says, brings up a good point. Jobs created is one thing. Let's talk about retention. Yeah, they don't want to talk about that number. You're right. The brilliant point right there, Erica. TM Lynn says stock prices are the only thing that matters. We talked about that a few weeks ago. That's correct. You are 100% correct. It's all about the stock prices. The employment numbers feed the industry, and that industry feeds the stock market. I wish Fight Club was real, and one day we'd wake up and we'd see like all the buildings on Wall Street just everybody lose everything. Come do what we have to do. Guess what? All those day traders, all those people there on Wall Street floor, man, y'all wouldn't survive 30 seconds with a Karen at the grocery store. Hero says there's a coworker has 4 total. Oh, wow. I have to talk to you about that. Mel says, seems like around here, it's a lot of teens and young adults at grocery stores like H-E-B and Brookshire Brothers, but other places, mostly older folk. Alex says, retention is a myth at this point. Almost all service jobs are revolving doors now. You are correct. Proto Rage, welcome. Been a minute. I know you got your own thing going on over there on Twitch and whatnot. I'm sorry I haven't been in there, but, we all got shit going on. But welcome. He says, hell, the cost of struggle meals now is too much, or means too much. Alex says, I have given up on the notion of retirement. like I said, I'm going to work till I die. I'm already there. I know that's what's going to happen. I'm going to die pulling a pallet off a truck or some shit. It's just going to happen. It's just the natural way of things to be. It's the circle of life, the circle of retail life. TM Lynn says, my kids are my retirement plan. I got one kid. If he does what he says he's going to do, yeah, we going to be set, but we'll see. Hero says the retail war zone does not condone acts of violence. Well, anyway, Erica says we need more grocery co-ops. Grocery co-ops are good, y'all. And then Proto Rage says it's no problem. I still love y'all. We love you too. So, Irish, your turn.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. The chat really blew up there.
It did, and that's what makes it great.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Well, you asked at the top of this episode, like what has been frustrating for you this year. I think a couple of people commented it's more of the same. Like one of the interesting comments what mentioned was that they worked with managers who were made for retail, and like one thing I've noticed over the years is that those guys are getting weeded out. The ones that have a natural flair for retail and for building a strong team and keeping the morale high are just being kind of berated out the door with bureaucratic nonsense and rule books and they just kind of want everyone to be, all the managers to be drones and every store to look the same, and there's no real kind of organic flair left in stores, and that leads me to kind of like what my frustration is. I don't think in my current job is that they have kind of realized that the world has changed fundamentally in the last couple of years, ever since the pandemic. The pandemic was viewed by them as an interruption to normal business trading, and as soon as we came back, it was exactly the same kind of philosophy was there, and exactly the same kind of techniques and everything, and they don't seem to understand, like, things are no longer the same. Even footfall is different. Like we had people during the pandemic that went online shopping that would never have gone online. People who would have been in the 50 plus age range, who just were used to kind of like, then we've had the kind of growth of like the cashless society and all that. Things are changing rapidly, and they're not keeping up with some of it. And especially when it comes to staffing, big problem with staffing. It's like, I think half of the comments there mention morale, and morale is, there's a lot of things that go into morale, but like corporate offices everywhere in retail, in my opinion, haven't really copped on. The retention rate is near zero.
Well, they don't care.
Yeah. The chances of someone getting their first job in a grocery store and staying there for more than 2 years is pretty low. It's very, very slim. And you're right, they don't care. And this is the thing is, they design these like, HR manuals and training sessions, and kind of like they even when they're advertising that they're recruiting, like, they put on this show and they make it appear as if, it's a place you'd like to work for a long time, or that they have all these perks and benefits perhaps. But the reality is that they're hemorrhaging workers, and they haven't sat down and said why. Instead, a lot of them are just going, okay, that's the new normal, so we'll just keep, like someone said there, like a revolving door. Every time someone leaves, someone else comes in, and then they never get really used to the store. They're never a familiar face. And then things like, your customer service, starts lagging behind, because, there are things you need to be in the store for at least 12 months to experience the 4 seasons, and, right. So if 90% of your staff, at Christmas time haven't been there the Christmas beforehand, that's a problem,
Yeah.
And so on and so on. So my thing in 2023 so far is that, in my opinion, so far corporate haven't woken up to the fact that we live in a different world now.
Yeah. And now one thing that came in through the chat, TM Lynn says their DM thinks 50% retention is realistic. No, the fuck it's not.
Over what time frame? A week?
Yeah, I don't know. And Blank Tank says I'd tell him to retain 50% of my balls. Yeah. And then Alex says they don't care, nor they want to, quote unquote, learn. They've never been on the sales floor. They don't know what stores really run like when they're not there. Hero said, I feel like they for years have been wanting to rock tumble their employees to make them uniform cogs in their machine. And recently they're trying to do the same with management to make them tossable once they find someone newer and more gullible and also willing to take less pay, just by the way. Red Scarf. I may have heard something about that. That's awful. But here's the thing, and I'm going to say this again, all right? Every store, I don't care what the company's mission is. I don't care what their mission statement is plastered on the wall in their corporate office. I don't care what the CEO says, anything. Every store is its own little ecosystem, and it is separate from all the values that the companies put out there. You have upper level management that are like dams. You know, they block the things that are important to know from upper management. Okay. And this is a real thing. I mean, we all know it. If you've been in this business forever, you know this. Like HR, for instance, HR is not your friend. You have to be very careful how you deal with HR because they could wind up fucking you. You have to ask questions like, am I anonymous? You have to ask questions like, are you going to contact my manager? Even before you spill whatever you're wanting to spill. And you need to get these conversations on record, okay? But when each store has its own little ecosystem, manager A at store here is going to be different than manager B. Manager A is going to have things that they're going to turn their head to. Manager B is going to be like, oh, fuck no, not on my watch. And that's really where the problem comes in this entire industry is there's no consistency with that. You know, you've got CEOs that may be great people, and they may have an absolute true vision of what they want their stores to be, but there's a chain of command that blocks the information from them to let them know how shitty it is at store level. You have, you know, in every store, everywhere, you have people in power that think they're more important than they are. You have people in power who think that their way is the right way, and it could be 110% the wrong way. You have people in power that treat people like absolute garbage. But if the ecosystem doesn't support the fact that somebody's going to take those complaints and fix them, there's why you have your turnover. You have people that leave jobs that are good. You have people that come in and they do their best. Nobody says you got to be like the best cashier or the best, you know, merchandiser or the best stocker or whatnot. You know, those kind of jobs are at a premium right now, man. It's hard getting people that can even remotely do that. But when you have people not recognizing that not everybody walks in the door the same way. You know, yeah, sure, I can go to work. I've been doing this for 30 fucking years. And yeah, I know how to do all this shit. That's great. But you got somebody who's only been in it a couple of years. They're not going to be as fast as you. They're not going to do it right. You know, you got to teach them. And the problem that I see with the retention that, you know, like Alex was talking about and what TM Limbs was talking about, retention don't mean shit if you don't treat your newcomers well. And if you don't treat them and teach them how to do it properly. There's too many old school managers out there who will give up on somebody because they're not plug and play without taking the time to teach them. I've seen this in so many different companies I've worked for. The amount of turnover you have because nobody took the time to train somebody properly. Right?
Yeah, that issue gets compounded as well when you're short-staffed because, like, a lot of managers will legitimately take the approach, well, not legitimately, but they'll take the approach of let them sink or swim. You know, just throw them behind the cash desk and figure it the fuck out. If you don't figure it the fuck out, we'll get someone else to do it. And that kind of compounds the issues you're talking about there, is that, people don't get proper training because you're already understaffed and the manager doesn't have time because they're doing the job of 3 other people. So it kind of just it's just this infinite loop. It goes back to like not being staffed adequately, and if they really are serious about how they treat customers and customer service and all that sort of stuff, they have to go back to that and stop seeing like you always say, employees as a controllable expense. Yes, they're controllable expense, but a lot of other things are too. And but they're not seen. They should be seen as an investment in customer service, an investment in your store being great, and instead they're just seen as a cost, rather than an investment. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and that's something that has always bothered me. Is something that, I'm about to go on a rant here. I'm sorry, everybody. I'll get to the chat here in just a second. All right. Everybody needs to know their role. Everybody needs to know where they are, and everybody needs to stay in their lane. Okay. We're surrounded by a lot of people every day, and all of us here in the chat, you guys can understand what I'm about to say. You have people that have been allowed to feel like they are the heart and soul of an operation. And it's not because they are, all right? It's just because nobody does anything about the stupid shit that they do. And if there's anything that will kill fucking morale and drive turnover, is lack of inaction over people behaving shittily. Where I come from, all right, I'll just use Jesus' Craft. I'll use Hobby Lobby as an excuse, all right? So if I had went to any of my associates at Hobby Lobby and said, you know what, you need to speed up, you're not fast enough, and if you don't, I'm going to get rid of you, that would have been my ass. Because the first question would have been, have you trained them? Did you tell them explicitly what the expectations were? And there's so much of that missing in the industry that we're in today. And part of that is because we have store managers who may be concerned. They're just hiring and bringing people in, trying to make shit work. But man, if you don't take time with your people, and if you don't look in the mirror and kind of slow your roll a little bit and be like, hey, maybe this person isn't as bad as I think they are. Maybe, and there again, maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. Maybe things would be a little bit better. Sorry. I just felt the need to do that. I'm going in on chat now, Irish. Sorry. Alex says, talking about cogs in the machine, there's a group here that owns 4 bars throughout the city. They had the gall to say any new employees would work all positions, all locations. Rescarf said, true. Adria said, bingo. All that bloviating should be ignored. The workers in our store basically run our store, and the managers are sometimes afraid of us. Yeah. Proto says, yes, I've asked HR that if I should puss out due to low blood sugar or the company be responsible. HR ghosted me. Not your friend. Mad Dog says, I'm frustrated with the amount of money the company is about to put out for a manager at a resort. Why give me payroll? Give me a little thank you for keeping this place from burning down. I don't want to go sit for 3 days with 600 other people. I want to do my laundry. I want to sleep. I want to handle my personal life. Yep. TM Lens, my DM was just talking about how we are an organization with stores that actually can make decisions based on their stores being different. That's cool. Blaytech says, Alex, when I applied for AMC, they told me I'd have to work at whatever theater in the district. They just decided to schedule me. And I didn't even have a fucking car when I moved there. Wow. Adria says, correct, our management is usually afraid of us. All right. What else we got here? Hero says, true. When I did training for the district at Jesus' Craft Store / Hobby Lobby, there were vast differences in teams, vibes, and management. Correct. Different ecosystem. Blank Tech says, I didn't get the job probably because of the car thing. Not sorry to be out of that industry, though. Alex says, talking about stores being their own ecosystems. We had a Music Land and the Sam Goody. Wow, man, these are like some old names there, Alex. And yes, Music Land owned Sam Goody in our mall, and they often wanted to toss employees between stores, and they couldn't. Yeah. Adria says, responding to TM Lynn's, true. We are like a pack of hyenas. If we see management treating coworkers poorly, we literally go over the person and back them up. Then the manager walks away sheepishly. So a lot of stuff. Adria said, good rant. Erica says, over the years, unions and their members have let their guards down to a degree as well. Workers have gotten so used to being beaten down, but we're gradually starting to see that tide shifting. She also said, I remember those days, Adria, on a personal level. I still stand up to wrongdoing. Managers used to fear the union, and they'd walk away in fear of you mentioning the big G word, grievance. Yep. And Proto says, you'd think damage control would involve any sort of lawsuits dealing with medical conditions. I've been yelled at by a different manager because I need to step away and bring my blood sugar up because it was low and I was getting pale with shakes. Yeah, that's bullshit. I think, one of the biggest things for me are these fuckers in these stores who think that the place would collapse without them. How many of you, raise of hands in the chat, press F in the chat. We'll just do F to pay respect, so to speak. How many of you work with somebody who honestly, seriously believes and spouts off that if they or their partners were not there, the place would collapse? Just curious. I knew, Hero, you would. How many of you deal with those fucking people? This is a good one. Let's go. Y'all about to get me fired up. Let's go. Hybrid, Let's go. I better see a bunch of fucking yep. Okay. Irish, before I go off, I'm going to let you say whatever you need to say because I'm about to blow up.
Man, the chat's insane tonight. It's great.
It's great.
All I will say is that there's a thing that HR like to quote every now and again called the Peter Principle. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's essentially you getting promoted to the point of incompetence. You're a great cashier, you get supervisor. You're a good supervisor, you get manager. You're an okay manager, you get regional manager. At that point, you stop being good at your job and you no longer get promoted. And that's how you get a lot of people who are stuck being incompetent. And I think that also feeds into they never really solved that problem. It's gone on for a long time, but it feeds into a lot of the stuff we're talking about tonight, and it's not really talked about enough, I don't think, of how people get stuck in their roles that they're no good at, and I think a lot of the places they just let that lie. It's like the status quo. Incompetence is the new normal, and a lot of places I worked. Jesus, I mean, how many in the chat have had managers you wonder how the hell did they get that job?
Right.
That kind of thing.
Okay.
Anyway, continue your answer.
Yeah. So, for all of you that pressed F, or for those of you maybe silent and not pressing F, you can clip this if you're on Twitch. You can save this clip on YouTube. I don't care. This is what you need to tell them. You think you're so fucking important that the business will fall apart without you? Then leave. Because these businesses have been around longer than you've been here, and they're going to be there long after you're gone. Nobody's that fucking good. I'm sorry. If you've got people who think they do it all, or they're doing more than somebody else, or whatnot, sorry, mama didn't love you enough as a child. Because, buddy, we're all just an employee number. They will replace us tomorrow if we die. And if you think you're really that fucking important to the machine that's running, boy, y'all got some problems, man. Because everybody's replaceable. Everybody. And they'll find somebody else to do the job and won't care. So stop your diva bullshit. Stop acting like no one does anything else. Because guess what? There's people there to clean up your fucking mess when you're done. That's my rant. Don't like it. Come at me, bro. Don't fucking care. They ain't none of us here that fucking important to a business that they won't succeed without us. And if you think that, you're probably in the wrong fucking business, Chief. Continue.
Well, I think a lot of people found that out during the layoffs in the pandemic that they weren't. But I mean, look, what's the old saying that the graveyard is full of indispensable people? You know,
Yeah.
It's just it's true. I've worked with people like that in the past, and there's a bravado and like that they carry as well. It's very fucking irritating. You know, there's a swagger to their work. They're just, you know, no one can do things as well as they do them, and they're the ones that always stay late, and they run on compliments from corporate, you know, and they're just little lapdogs, like,
oh,
you know,
no. I got to stop you there. They're not running off of compliments from corporate. Trust me. Continue.
Well, they're getting their ego stroked somewhere, and they just enjoy the image of being indispensable. And for the most part, I've taken advantage of people like that in the past. Like, you know, just go, all right, you know, if you want to, you know, unload the truck by yourself, I'm going on break still, you know, kind of thing. You know, they always want to be the hero. They always want to be you know, they're just, it's kind of pathetic. Like, and they last a surprisingly long time, actually.
Well, some do, some don't. Yeah. And I will equate it to being a musician. And this is why I say that. Growing up, learning to play an instrument, all right, one of the most profound things that was ever told to me was, no matter how good you are, there's always somebody better. But no matter how bad you are, there's always somebody worse. And the big thing with that is, no matter how good you think you are, there's someone better. And better encapsulates a lot of things in this business. More efficient, quicker, less time wasting, handle shit, get shit done. I hate those motherfuckers who act like the business will fall apart without them, because they've got this self-centered, like, mental concept that they really do believe if they walked out the door, the place would collapse. And that is the dumbest, most short-sighted bullshit I've ever heard. Somebody didn't raise people right, because guess what? We're all replaceable. The only thing you're not replaceable to is your family. That's it. Your turn.
Absolutely, and like that, and that's something I think we all need to take on board too, with every job. Like, but you know, I think we've spoken loads of times in retail how it consumes you. It takes over your kind of your free time, as you spoke about tonight, that, like, you know, you value your free time, and we kind of got trained out of that. Is that, like, you know, you don't have free time, you're on call all the time, or that, like, you know, even for entry level retail jobs, you're expected to go, your availability is 24/7 365.
Yep.
You know, but we're only going to give you like 15 hours a week, or whenever it suits us, you know, like, but then you're expected to never have plans. And you sometimes in some particularly egregious retailers, like, if you dare to do something like, you know, plan a vacation for yourself, you know, they make it problematic. You know, it's just a rescheduling jobs most of the time, especially if you give enough notice. There's no problem at all, but they will make it the biggest deal in the world. They just deliberately make it a problem for no other reason than to remind you that, like, you know, you're the little bitch. And you know, that's something I think I've learned in the last couple of years, and I should have learned a long time ago. And I think is why that, you know, your numbers for, you know, 18 to 25-year-olds is partially explained why it's so low, is because that generation knows better. They've seen their parents do it. They've seen older siblings do it, and they don't get any payoff.
Yes,
you know,
you're correct.
You know, and I think that's a brilliant thing. I'm glad that the stats don't show that it's 50% people 18 to 25.
Yeah, and I want to throw out there, you know, Hero just posted, and this makes a lot of sense. That's why the quote unquote married to an unfaithful job quote of yours is so profound. It's true, and it makes you pause and say, fuck. You know, it is. Absolutely. And but you know, the whole thing about this is, you know, whether I've been in training, whether I've worked in somebody else's store, as a manager or whatnot, I'm going to go on record as saying that 90% of the people that come off with this whole, it wouldn't survive without me, wouldn't have made it working for me for more than 60 days. Because A, it's toxic. B, the ones that spout about how good they are never that good to begin with. Push them out the fucking door. And that's been my thing, because those kind of people that act like that cause problems in your store. They're the ones, they're going to take zero accountability for everything. They're not going to train anybody for one thing, but they're going to blame somebody for doing a shitty job. They're going to talk about people that they're never around, saying it's their fault for things. It's fuckers. It don't work that way. Some of us are smarter than the average bear. We know how the business works. Those people have no place in your business, because what they're going to do is cause a toxicity that you need to exterminate. I don't understand why people just cannot do their job and go
home. Yeah, it's conditioning for some of them. Like, so some of them get off on that sort of image, and then like for me, I don't think I ever believed that, like, the place would fall apart if I wasn't there. But I did get into I was at the point where I was pretty much on call all the time from various jobs, and I was covering every day off, and I was staying longer on every shift and so on. But I begrudged it as opposed to enjoyed it. But those idiots enjoy it for some reason. And you're right, they cause serious problems. They're toxic individuals.
Yes.
And they need to be weeded out, because from a kind of if you stand back, someone might think, oh, look, they're very enthusiastic about the business or their job, or they're always putting in extra effort. It's great.
They're me.
Yeah, they're prima donnas half the time, and they accountability is a big word they use there. Like that's something that they typically don't do. But people just get resentful to them, like, and it just, everyone else gets fucking miserable and pissed off with characters like that around, and then morale goes down. And morale was one of the key words that kept popping up there at the beginning of this show when you ask people, like, how's 2023 going? Morale is fucked. No, I don't know if it's because of people like that. I think it's for other reasons, but like, They don't do anything good for morale, is what I'm saying.
Well, the one thing about those kind of people is it creates turnover. You get people that might be, I'm sorry, I don't care if you work at a craft store. Not everybody, people are just looking for jobs. They're not going to know about scrapbooking. They're looking to work. You get people that go work at like an office supply store. They don't know shit about that stuff. They're just looking to work. You get people come to a grocery store. They don't know how to stock. They're just looking to work. And the problem is, you got people who are really legitimately there to try to make a little bit of money. And you push them out because you think you're God. And I really have a hard problem with that. I really do. And, I have only been as successful as my team in the store was, period. My people did the work to make me successful. Part of that was training. Part of it was people I inherited. But, it's funny. When I worked for Guitar Center, the store manager I originally worked for made this one comment, and it stuck with me from there on. No man left behind. You've taken the time to hire somebody and bring them on. You need to invest your time in them to help you out. But what happens is these people who think they're so fucking important and the world will collapse without them, it's a blame shifting thing. Oh, well, they just sucked. They weren't fast, and they didn't do this and they didn't do that. And every time you ask them, did you teach them? It's a blank fucking stare. And that's the problem. And when I talk about stores having an ecosystem that's different from the store down the road, that's also an at the top problem. Somebody at the top should be like, why are we turning so many people on this position? something's not going on right. But, yeah, sometimes it doesn't happen. So it is what it is. But having said that, we're at 2 minutes over an hour. Irish, thank you for making it with a time change. I forgot about it. I should have messaged you and said, hey, Irish, we have the time change. It's great.
I have a habit of that, yeah.
Yeah. I want to thank everybody in the chat. The audio for this will be up later. I will be honest with you. I've had two steaks in the fridge for like almost 3 hours. So marinating. So I'm going to do that afterwards. And then once I eat, I will put the audio up. So there's that. I want to thank everybody for being here. The chat's been great. Please help spread the word and please help bring more people here. You know, we do have topics from time to time, you know, on the Retail War Zone, but sometimes it's just best to just chat it up. And that's what makes these so cool. So, number one, hit like on the video. Number two, print out the business card and circulate it. Number three, send me ideas. If there's somebody you want on the show, that's something I haven't done yet this year. We can have guests still. If you've got somebody, send them my way. If you have if you're out there watching and you have a story to tell, we'll put you on. It'll be anonymous. All good. So, but once again, everybody, make Mad Dog feel welcome on Twitter. It took almost 2 years to get her there, and she finally jumped ship. So do that. Irish, before I close out, do you have any last words?
Just remember, nobody is indispensable, and be loyal to your paycheck and nothing else.
Amen, brother. Amen. So having said that, everybody, have a great evening, and we will see you next week.